with the Royal Air Force had written it just before he'd been killed. Henry knew every word. He closed his eyes and tried reciting it silently to ease himself back to sleep. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or even eagle flew. And, while with silent, lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. That's how Henry had thought flying would be. Dancing the skies, skating the winds, playing tag with angels. But flying bombing missions hadn't been anything like that. The missions had been teeth-gritting beelines to targets dogged all the way by men shooting at them. He didn't know how many planes he'd seen explode, scattering debris and bodies through the clouds, how many screams of pain he'd tried to ignore during the past few months. With a groan of frustration, Henry put his hands over his eyes and rubbed his forehead to clear his mind. That's no way to go back to sleep, he told himself. He listened to the deep, steady snores of his bunkmates. See, they're not afraid. Suck it up, boy. A whiner won't last long in this world. Henry pushed his father's voice out of his head. He was sick of that voice and its harsh assessments. It had been a real struggle for Henry not to see himself the way his father seemed to. He'd thought he'd be free of his father here, overseas, in a war, a chaotic world away from their isolated farm. But the voice haunted him still. Henry made himself think about blueberry pie. To smell his ma's blueberry pie, that would calm him down. It always did. He drifted home to Virginia and dreamed of his mother, Lily, standing by the kitchen sink. She was awash in tide water sunshine. "Get your fingers out of my pie, you sneak," Lily chided. "It'll be cool soon enough. Then you can have a proper slice and sit down to the table like civilized folk." Her dimples showed as she said it, though, so Henry knew he could push it. He pulled out another small wedge, even though it scalded his fingers. He popped it into his mouth. Grinning, Lily picked up a wooden spoon and shook it at him. "You're a ham bone," she said, and caught him for a hug. "Lieutenant Forrester?" A voice cut through the bleary warmth of Lily's kitchen. "Get up, Lieutenant. You're flying today." Henry forced his eyes open. Sergeant Bromsky stood by his bunk, shining a flashlight. The blueberry pie evaporated. I'm up," Henry said, and stretched himself awake. He was used to arising at 4 a.m. on his family's chicken farm, but most of the other flyers weren't. Sleepy groans filled the Nissen hut as the sergeant and his flashlight beam moved from bed to bed to rouse 15 other pilots, navigators, and bombardiers, the officers of 4 bomber crews. "Where are we heading, Sarge?" Henry asked. "Any idea?" Sergeant Bromsky came back to Henry's cot. It was next to the small black stove that heated the 30-foot-long hut. Built like a tin can cut in half and turned onto the ground, the hut had only one door and 2 windows at each end. It was dark and damp. Winds from the nearby North Sea found every crack. Even right beside the stove, the airman shivered. Sergeant Bromsky faced his backside to the stove. "The word is Germany. Pretty far in. But keep it to yourself. You know the rules, Hank."